And I was like, David, man, I'm sort of homecoming.
It's very apropos.
Yeah.
I guess we're live, huh?
We are live.
Welcome back to the Demand Better podcast, your ultimate consumer's guide in the health, fitness, and wellness space. We are sponsored by Fit Care Physiotherapy and Wellness, where the emphasis is to focus on your fitness so you can avoid the healthcare space. I'm your host, Corona, coming to you from the heart of the concrete jungle of New York City. And joining me, as always, from the beautiful Rocky Mountain town of Erie, Colorado, is the one and only Dr. Bo Babenko. Been a minute. What's up, Bo?
Living the dream. I'm gonna pick a gripe with your industry real quick. Since sorry to do this while Tom's on, but you ever listen to Shameless, by the way? And either of you? They do this whole spiel as their guest is sitting there, and they go on and they're like, our guest doesn't want to hear this, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do the same thing. So I got this. People you may know on Facebook, and they had a shirt that said DPT, and these are fit looking people, and I was like, oh, well, interesting. And what do you guys think of when you hear DPT?
I think about Doctor of Physical Therapy.
Yeah. So Lifetime Fitness, this is a nationwide problem. They started doing dynamic personal trainers, as opposed to static personal trainers, I guess. So clearly they're trying to infringe on, $600,000 degree that I have, whatever. So I was a little upset. So yeah, there was like 3 of them. I guess this is a big thing. So they're all wearing the same shirt, and these are different people. And they kept coming up as these friend recommendations. So I sent them messages. In the state of Colorado, it is different state by state. In the state of Colorado, DPT is a protected term, only to be used by doctors of physical therapy, not dynamic personal trainers. So I'm a little upset. I thought I would air my grievances here. I know this is a safe space. So Lifetime Fitness, if you're out there. I messaged 2 of the people. The third one is in Arizona. So, but clearly they're making them wear these shirts, I guess. I don't know what's happening.
Bo, I love you, but you got to go. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce our guest, Tom Shepard, a fascinating innovator in the financial planning space who's redefining what it means to build wealth with purpose. Tom is the founder and CEO of the Shepard Financial and Currency Camp, bringing over 28 years of experience in helping people evolve the relationship with money. With an engineering degree and a business background from RIT, Tom has developed a unique approach that integrates a personal well-being with financial strategy. From his early days as a materials handling engineer at Pratt & Whitney to becoming transformative voice in financial planning, Tom brings a refreshing perspective on how we can align finances with natural tendencies and life goals. When he's not reshaping the financial planning landscape, Tom's a dedicated family man, sharing his life adventures with his wife, Susan, and 3 kids, daughters, Sydney, Madison, and Kira, and son, Owen. He is one of the first friends I've ever had in my life, and we are so thrilled and to have him here. I call him Tommy. We're going to call him professionally Tom. And just an FYI, one of the best lacrosse players I've ever seen. Tommy, welcome to the show.
Hey, David. What's up, Bo? Thanks for having me on. I'm just so happy and thrilled to be here.
Dude, that's a little bit of an introduction for you.
That is.
A little. I gave you a little bit of. I looked into your research a little bit.
I was wondering when it was going to stop because the longer it goes on, the older I get.
So let's first of all let me put this bad boy up in the air for you. This is the book. I will say this off of inception. I have read it. Not only have I read it, I truly enjoyed it. You look at finances completely different than most people. So let's talk about how you got to where you got. Currency Camp, I still have my mat with the dollar bill on it that I love so much. But let's talk about how you look at finances, because I will say this to you. Finances for a lot of people is terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. And I think you really bring a different perspective.
Thank you. I didn't always have a different perspective. I think part of gaining a perspective had something to do with having kids. And in the book, I talk about the kids I had at work that I was training to do this stuff. I'm losing these. And the kids I had at home. Because my little kids at home were like brand new, 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3 years old. And the other ones had had a certain amount of life, and the little ones were way more courageous and brave about trying new things and doing this and doing that. So it really, the philosophy I eventually developed around money is truly thanks to my children.
But listen, you're inspiring Bo right now, because Bo has what is he now? 8 months or 2 years? Like a time pass.
8 months. What is your brain doing?
I don't know.
You got him like a present for when he was born. So that was 26 months ago, bro.
I got him a jersey.
Yes.
I got him a jersey.
And I blame you for unintentionally making him a Jets fan. I didn't want to make him a Jets fan. Why make him suffer? Why make him suffer? Yes, and I do appreciate that, and that's I have a dad's group that I run, and I just checked in with them. I said, hey, we talk about money in here a little bit from time to time, and I wanted to know if you guys had any questions. I got this financial expert on. So yeah, there was that question of advice for new fathers. Do you just throw money into a 529, throw as much as you can in, or are we planning for college? What if you don't want them to go to college? Do you just want to have a life savings? Do you want to have a death certificate thing? What, I can't think of the things now. You threw me all off, David. Life insurance policy, that's what I'm thinking of. I believe there's a policy there. So yes, again, finances are not financial literacy, something I've heard you talk about on other shows. So I think that concept of financial literacy, even again, we have 8 of us in that group, and folks successful of all different levels, all different industries, and everyone's kind of like, yeah, I do this, I throw money in a 401k or a Roth IRA. But again, when it comes to talking about how our values line up with our finances and how we're going to pass that on to our kids, I'd love to hear a little more and expanding on some of the stuff you said in the book, from you, Tom, of any advice you have for new fathers or parents in general.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest piece of the philosophy is that I firmly believe that every child is wired to do money a certain way, and your kids are not all gonna be wired the same way. Your dads aren't gonna be all wired the same way. The moms aren't, and it's not a gender thing. It's not an age thing. It truly, I believe, is you are wired to trade time and energy to get money to buy stuff so you can have the kind of relationship you want to have with the world. And it's in your genes, but it's not a curse. It's more like you are given something to be talented and focused on, and other people will be given other things, and then you can learn from each other. So the things that divide us bring us together if we're willing to just say, you know what, you could be right based on the way you're wired, because it's not always about the math. It sometimes is about the motivation. Like a strategy that works for one person because they're pursuing it might be a really bad idea because somebody else is trying to use that same strategy as something to protect themselves with. And we see this in gambling. We see it in investing. I had a guy today that I was having a conversation with, and I said, so what's on your mind? He's like, I want to put everything in Tesla. And I said, it's already gone on quite a run. And I said, he goes, well, then let's short it. and I'm like, well, you could hedge your bet by using a call option or a put option. And he's like, what are those? So it's just funny that people have these ideas about money, and they don't realize that those ideas are just things they've become attached to because those concepts were attractive. And but being good with money requires you to understand the order that it operates in and be open to experimenting and trying out things that do seem uncomfortable. And often it's best to do the uncomfortable stuff, the things you're trying out under the guidance and auspices of a DPT.
Yeah. listen, I'm going to say that that was fabulous. So, and he wasn't talking about physical therapy. I'm going to, because everything you wrote in your book, man, it lines up with fitness. It absolutely lines up. And every ounce of it. This fitness isn't a one size fits all. It's just not. You got to find, people have to fail their way forward to get from point A to point B. And you got to dig and look at people's habits and say, well, listen, this isn't working for you. You've tried this. Let's pull that out. Let's put this in. And it's a trial and error. And the way listen, man, that's why you caught me on the book, was because you're in my wheelhouse when you're discussing.
Right.
Okay. So I'm going to back up from that for a minute, because I really want to get into your file. You run a company, and you're one of the first people I've ever heard who puts fitness into their company. Not just having a gym, but competing with your fellow workers in the gym, working out as a group. And you don't have coverage at home at night, so why don't you work out during the day? And then when you go home, your wife can go work out, your husband can go, whatever it might be. You have that as a culture, which I don't ever hear about. And listen, this is a CEO series. I haven't heard. Bo, have you heard of this anywhere?
Reebok.
But that's a gym.
Not really fair. No, but yes, it's not a fair one. But yes, it's very rare for any other type of industry. If it's in the fitness industry, yes, it's a normal thing. But I'm thrilled that it is something you are bringing to there. Again, companies like Google, I think, do some version of this as well, right? So the fact that you're taking what works and bringing it to your company is fantastic. But again, prioritizing that, probably looking at the big picture, right? Saying this will have more successful employees. The people will be able to be more productive. That's kind of the idea there. So yeah, fantastic.
So talk to me about that, because I think it rolls into how you are as a finance person, because you have a broader vision than that narrow vision of making just money. I think you look at things so differently, and energy is a big portion of what you do, because you said if you're not inspired, you don't perspire. So, talk to me about that, Tom, and talk to me about your corporate culture, because I think it's amazing.
Thanks. I've worked in a lot of different places where it was, get up early in the morning and go work out. But when I had little kids, I wanted to see them off to school, and I wanted to have dinner with them. And so I'm like, I need to do something in the middle of the day. And, one of the worst things you can do is sit at a desk all day. So, we started thinking about, what does our day need to look like, so that we can have energy in the morning, which you usually do. Maybe you need a little coffee to get you up, but like, if you got a good night's sleep, you come in, you're energized. You sit in a chair, you engage with like thinking and mental activity. And if you just keep thinking, the quality of your thinking just deteriorates, and it's time to go do something else. So you're not just a mind, you are a body, and you are a heart. So we talk about the mind, body, and spirit. And throughout the course of the day, if you can engage your mind, engage your body, and engage your heart, then you're going to be healthier when you go home. And our industry is full of all kinds of stresses. There's market activity, economic activity, news activity. There's just so many things to think about. And I haven't always done this. And when I don't do it, I am not at my best, and I might turn to other coping mechanisms like alcohol to try and cope and deal with that stress. And so we've tried to make healthier living a part of what we do at work, not just something we encourage people to do before or after.
It's amazing, and it's unheard of. Go ahead, Bo.
I didn't have anything.
Oh, you didn't have a question?
I have
I
other
caught you off
questions.
guard.
I don't want to drop over this topic.
So don't move yet, because he has something else I want to discuss, which is in that same wheelhouse, and then we can move on. Currency Camp.
Mm-hmm.
You got people doing yoga. You got people doing stuff. Explain your Currency Camp that you run, because I think that's also mind body production, all of it.
We built a space so that we could get like 15 people in a horseshoe shape around a TV and around a presenter who talks about financial literacy. But here's the thing: financial literacy doesn't work because people want to know more about what they're already attracted to. So the very first session, we have everybody find your financial nature. It's an assessment that helps people identify, what are you attracted to? What's your favorite relationship with money? Then we have them list the 5 things they want to get out of Currency Camp. And then we have them compare your nature to your list, and they always match. Because if I'm an investor, I want to know more about investing. If I'm a saver, I want to know about saving. If I'm a spender, I want to know about budgeting. If I'm an earner, I want to know about how to earn more money. But to have a better relationship with money, you have to actually learn the other things that you are not attracted to. And you have to kind of do it in a certain order. But you won't believe it unless you're in a room with people who are wired different than you are. And so it doesn't work as very well as a one-on-one training module where you take yourself through all the different steps, because sitting there by yourself, you're like, well, I'm not that interested in this. Let's go to the next module. But in a class setting, the Currency Camp program highlights how people are wired, how they think differently, how they define happiness and the pursuit of it differently. Look, there's 7 different ways people pursue happiness. It's got to be exciting. For some people, it's got to be fun. For others, it's got to be satisfying or relaxing or enjoyable or really easy. That's me. I like going with the flow. And for other people, it's like, I'm not happy unless I'm pursuing something I'm really, really, really passionate about. So that's what makes what we do different. Is we start from the basis of, who are you really? And you've been that way since you were born, and now it's time to finally wake up and realize it. Like I was in my 40s by the time I sort of figured out and put this whole philosophy together.
Do you require your employees to go through the camp?
Yeah, everybody who works for me has taken the assessment. Everybody gets a full dose of this, and they get it a lot, and they get it every day, and they start using it. We start talking about it because it is the language of our culture. And the cool thing is, it's not like academic, high level, intellectual jargon. There's 7 natures: spender, earner, saver, investor, lever, giver, taker. There's 3 motivations: protect, manage, pursue. There's no psychological words. There's no doctorate level words. It's taking the basic building blocks and putting them together to create things that are complex. So it's like playing with Legos. I grew up, I love playing with Legos. Now the parts are too complicated. You got to follow the directions. Who wants to follow the directions? I don't.
This is a way out question, because I find it, anybody who's listening, I just want to hear your answer on this. The amount of sick days that you have in your company. Are people out sick often, or are they not? Because the culture seems like, I want to go to work, I want to go do my job, I would love working for you. That's what I feel.
Right now, everybody who works for me except me has little kids. And so this is where the snot nose thing comes into play every winter. You know, we don't necessarily say, you know, how many sick days did you use? You know, if you need a day to go do something, go do it. You know, your job is not a $1 per hour job. It's not even a get your job done today kind of job. It's like you can get your job done whenever you need to get it done from wherever you're located. So we're not bound by time and space here. So so we, you know, we don't keep track of vacation time. We don't keep track of personal time. We don't keep track of any of that stuff.
No, you say it sounds like a great place to work. I want to work for you. Go ahead, Bo.
Are you hiring? Is that what we're going?
Is
this the interview?
Yeah. So, yeah.
I did want to ask. Okay, it sounds like it's more the whole concept, and having read the book is more about kind of like a love language concept, right? Trying to find where you are, and also maybe where your partner is on that spectrum, and understanding how those two can work together to create a better life. Is that anything you took any inspiration from, like love languages? I assume you might be somewhat familiar with that.
Yeah, Enneagram, love languages, Myers-Briggs, any sort of social construct that attempts to help us realize that we don't all have the same definition for the same word. So like the first question in our assessment is, where do you go to save? Do you go to Walmart or the bank? And there's a really short story in the Bible called the Tower of Babel, and everybody thinks it's how foreign languages develop. Honestly, I think it's how one language got splintered off into a whole bunch of dialects where people couldn't speak to other people because they were so specialized. So like having an engineer try and talk to to a heart surgeon who's then trying to talk to a philosopher who's trying to talk to, like, we are a common people separated by a common language. The English talk about as English speaking people, British and Americans are literally separated by the fact that they speak the same language, but they don't always have the same words to express themselves. Other languages have lots of words for love. We have one. And I talk about that a little bit in the book.
There's the wonderful German word Schadenfreude that only
exists
in German. That's a fun
name. We were, me and my kids were out last night at dinner, and she looked at me as she's going through the menu, and she's like, help me understand, what is mystery chicken versus strange chicken? And I said, it gets better, Sid, because there's a version of it called slippery chicken. And I honestly think it's just an interpretation of a word from a different region in China, where the dialect causes you to, take that recipe and call it something that just does not sound appealing. Slippery chicken.
I did want to first move things to a little different shift of understanding for those, and I wanted to kind of start this earlier, but what you do is more a relationship with your financial kind of identity. I know there's some different language you have in your bios, but for those listening, and again, the title being here, demanding better from just money and financial literacy. I guess the question becomes maybe helping people understand the difference between a financial advisor, a financial planner, wealth management, all these different terms. Again, I'm 41. I own a house. I have a mortgage, all that good stuff. I have a 2-year-old who Corona thinks is 16 months younger than he is, whatever. But still, just wondering if you can break some of those concepts down for us. And again, your company, even the Currency Camp, is definitely something different. But just wondering if, again, someone hears, I'm in finance, what does that mean? Right. And having all these kind of concepts would be great if you could break that down for us.
Yeah, I'll just do it in sort of a quick story format, because I was a teacher teaching personal finance as a math class at a boarding school in Maine. And the kids were like, you should talk to our parents. And so I'm like, all right, well, then what do I need to be to talk to your parents? And so I could be an insurance agent and sell insurance. I could be a broker and sell stocks and bonds. I could be a banker and sell CDs. And I decided I didn't want to be one of those. I wanted to be all three of them. And I still wanted to be a teacher. And so for me, that is what a CFP, a certified financial planner, is a doctor and planner of therapy for people who are focused on their finances. A DPT.
So Tom, in terms of Currency Camp, can anybody join?
Yeah, Currency Camp. So here's the funny thing. We created this beautiful space. It's gotten dark out and it's dark behind me, but it's where we're going to do this in person, right? We're so excited. We're getting ready to launch. We're starting to advertise, and we moved into the space in January of 2020.
Good timing. Perfect timing.
Immediately, we're shut down. We can't do Currency Camp as an in-person experience. So we tried, we hired a couple people. We tried to put something online, but the market dropped 40%. I lost 2 staff people because of PPP money. Like, they were somewhat self-employed, and it's like, okay, well, I can get money. I can go do what I really want to do. And so since we moved into this space, Currency Camp as an in-person experience has been on hiatus. And I instead tried to put it online, and then I got busy writing the book. And so now that the book is out, and we're in a position to try and resurrect the program, the in-person experience has to take place here. And that's something that I'm trying to figure out how to spread the experience to other advisors that actually want to get involved with it and take it on. So there's some cool stuff happening behind the scenes. I've got a couple of financial advisors down in Philadelphia who have really kind of taken a liking to the topic, and we're trying to figure out how we can get this to a lot more places. So the way we run it is it's a 7-week program, once a week, where you come in, you have an in-class experience, you go home, you do some homework, and by the time you're all done, you have a incredible understanding of yourself, your finances, and the work that needs to be done next to take you from the level you're at to the level that you are trying to get to.
No, it's listen, man, and I say this to you from a perspective of dealing with a lot of people who run companies. You're one of the very, very few, my friend, who actually, you look out for your employee. You look out for their health, you look out for their lifestyle. You said, we can do X, Y, and Z, we can do this. There's a lot of other employers that you kind of run into where it's, you got to pound the grindstone and do what you got to do because we got to make loot. And that's just the way it works. And there's so many parallels in the way you have put things together with finance that roll really, really well into fitness. And a lot of stuff that we end up doing, because I think you are looking at the person as an individual and figuring out what makes them tick, which is exactly what I do every single day, what Bo does every day. Where we find out what makes you tick, and then we got to find out what's going to excite you, what's going to move you. As you would say, you don't get excited if you don't perspire, if you don't inspire. So you have to find those levers to actually get people from point A to point B. And as far as a business model, I just have never, and Tom, I say this to you not because we're friends. I say this to you, I've never seen anything what we're experiencing, what I've read, what I've followed you on. I've just never seen anything like it. And I just am so blown away by it.
I had a friend, Tim Brewster, who when I was a new advisor and then a coach, 2 other advisors. I was putting like 35,000 miles a year on my car. It was a standard shift Honda Accord. And I decided to buy a new suit. And I went to the tailor, I picked it up, and I took it home. I laid it out on the bed, and the legs were different lengths. And I took it back to him. I'm like, dude, what's up? He's like, there's nothing wrong with me. It's you. And at the time, I had been out running, and I kept hyperextending my knee. And it turns out that because I had the standard shift car, and I always had one leg out and the other one doing the work, I was off kilter. And so I went to a chiropractor, and she started jumping up and down on me to try and fix me. So I end up at my friend Tim Brewster's personal training boot camp program. And he had a 12-week program, and he'd do an assessment. He'd put you in the program. And because he was developing something that could be done in a group setting, I was often competing with a woman who was 65. we knew what the competition was. If we were doing stairs or we were doing down and backs, she and I knew what the competition was, and she knew what victory was. It wasn't like crossing the line first. It was like, I'm not going to get lapped twice this time. So what Tim did, I looked at it, and I was actually inspired by the model that he was using. And so I've been sort of stealing from your industry for a long time. And then Susan was a personal trainer and got certified as a Pilates instructor. And we would talk about the health of the spine. Yes. Is very similar to the health of a good financial plan. There's 7 different things you got to master. It's just like chakras. It's just like energy. If there's something turned off and it's not functioning, or it's turned on and it won't shut off, then we need to address it. So what you do and what I do are complementary. Try this. The next time you've got somebody whose lower back is in discomfort and it won't shut, ask them if they're having any financial stress.
Well, that's where you do that, right?
That's where it's stored.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of overlap there. And I think you kind of quoted, I think it's a Chinese proverb that says you are only as old as your spine. So yes, if you have an unhealthy spine, it tends to make us feeble and less active and less lively. But yeah, and I use the financial analogy all the time for folks in fitness, is saying, hey, you have a net worth. A lot of people seem to understand some version of putting money away for their retirement for finances, but in terms of their fitness, they might be, kind of what Corona's talking about here is they're grinding themselves down. They're not putting their fitness first. That's why we're having the CEO series. And so it is so inspiring to hear how you have established your company and run that. But yeah, it's that concept of what does your body look like now? And what do you think that's going to look like 20 years from now or 30 years from now if you're not putting away, financial or physical investment? So a lot of people do not invest in their physical nature. And there's the short term of like, I want to look better and feel better, or I'm going to wait until I get hurt to do that. But then, yeah, the financial analogies are definitely, as we read through the book, you have all sorts of fun tie-ins to that. But yeah, it's really great to see that, again, it's one that we can see all the time. Is there a way that you look at, your fitness? And again, you're still playing in a lacrosse league, I believe, and at your.
He is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Listen, Bo. I say this with much respect. He's one of the best to ever play. He's an awesome lacrosse player. Awesome human being, but awesome lacrosse player.
It's funny because I sort of felt like I had mastered a certain position. I was a defenseman, and in 2004, just shortly after my son was born, I tore my ACL trying to cover a kid that was like 18 years old, 5'6". I was going to go over the head behind the cage, and the day before I had been skiing. And what you don't want to do is combine skiing footwork with lacrosse. I put weight over a knee that wasn't ready for it, and it just went right to the ground. Tore the ACL. Thankfully, no MCL damage. No real significant damage. But after the surgery, I'm like, you know what? I want to change direction when I want to change direction. So I became an attackman. And but being an attackman, I started off with the philosophy that I'm going to do everything I hated when I was being covered by a defenseman, or when I was a defenseman. I was gonna be like the biggest pain in the butt. So when you shift gears, in your 40s to try and learn a new position, it keeps you young, honestly. So I play against guys who look at I have a shirt that says Vail Tournament 2000, and some of the kids I play with have, they weren't even born yet.
It's funny. I actually have a shirt on from 2002. That's why I'm covering it up. Where's that? 2002. There it is.
Eric Wittenberg from North Carolina State.
That's right. This was at Wagner College. He was the coach there, and then that famous North Carolina State buzzer beater in the Final Four in the 80s.
The Jim Valvano year.
That's right.
But there was a time where I was playing basketball, I was doing lacrosse, I was doing the boot camp type stuff, and it was too much, and I started to break down. And Susan was doing some of this stuff with me and was running marathons, and she was breaking down, and so I also, this was 2008, had a panic attack and literally broke down. And part of my recovery from that was talking to a acupuncturist who also did nutrition, and introduced me to Tai Chi and suggested that I do some yin type activities instead of yang all the time. And restorative type stuff. And so that started to become, something that I investigated, learned about, and got folded into the philosophy that we were using, because money's just an energy, and we use it to do work and accomplish great things. And, if it's not flowing, you got to get it flowing. If it's flowing too fast and going all over the place and short circuiting, then you got to do something to calm it down and turn it off a little bit.
So Tom, in terms of your personal fitness, I know you as a great athlete. I know what else. I know you play lacrosse every year, and we've talked about mobility, because I think the biggest thing that people don't seem to realize, and as you get older, you need to work on mobility, not just hammering weights and stuff like that. You really got to get your joints flowing, and you got to get your body to be able to, because if you do that, you won't have pain. That's like an interesting little thing. But outside of lacrosse, because I know you're a runner, are you still running?
Well, I tore my ACL a second time, and then I was preparing for a lacrosse tournament, and there was a little club that we decided we were going to create this activity, and you could be in the 32-minute club if you could run 4 hours and 32 minutes. And so I'm like, I can do that. And
you could run what, 4 miles in 32 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you said 4 hours.
No. 4 miles in 32 minutes. Okay. But I'd had this surgery, and I thought it was just a second ACL tear. And but it turned out, like, the training to do this and the act of doing it, it turned out I reread with my physical therapist the transcript from the surgery, and it turns out I have a torn meniscus. So running and I are not currently on friendly terms. So it's I love to ride a bike, whether it's indoors or outdoors. I still use a push mower to mow my lawn. I have dogs.
Sometimes you wear a horse mask. I've seen you on your mower.
No, that's
with a
that was the wolf mask. Susan made that for Kira one year, and I have on Instagram like a series of images that Sydney took of me. It's the Shep dog. It's the Shep dog. Yeah. So staying physically in shape after you've gotten a little bit out of the routines that got you to a certain point in life is a challenge, because you have to find some new things. And I'm currently in a position where I do need to figure out how not just to do our Tuesday, Thursday workouts with Jordy, who comes in, and not just yoga a couple of times a week, but I've been sort of struggling a little bit with my routine. There were times where my routine was just full of working out, and part of that is when you do start to hurt, you're less motivated to want to continue to do it. So my son the other day came home and he's like, Dad, he works construction, and he used to use a shovel. Now he uses a backhoe. So he's now sitting in a cab, basically playing a video game. And he comes to me, he says, I used to work a lot and it was physical. Now you and I basically spend all day doing work that is mental. And I come home, I gotta go to the gym. And so he just signed up for the gym. So he went for 2 days, 3 days. And I'm like, how you feeling? He's like, is it ever going to stop hurting? And I'm like, yeah, trust me, it'll get better. Whatever muscle hurts, just move it. Go back in and move it again. Just keep doing it. You're young and supple and resilient, and it'll go well for you. But like for me, it's like I do need a little bit more intention. You and I had a session where you're like, you gotta roll.
Yeah.
And so that's now something that we make sure Jordy makes us do that in our sessions. And you got to drink a lot more water. And those things are extremely beneficial for me. But I also had a herniated disc, and so a little traction is helpful. And
are you lifting weights?
We do some, yeah. But I know that, part of staying as vigorous as I need to, and making sure that my bones and my joints come with me in the form that I want. The weights need to be heavier.
Yeah, Bo, yeah. Look at the smile on his face. He's
yeah.
Go ahead, Bo.
Yeah, I just put together a chapter for a book about Healthy for Life, which is coming out in January. And yeah, my main thing was looking at movement vital signs the same way we look at financial vital signs. I'm sure you could, like I said, I've put all my time into physical vital signs. You put all your time into, or a lot of your time into financial vital signs. So, but yeah, the ability to lift heavy is definitely one of those things. The same way I'm sure if you want to throw some, I don't know if there's generic numbers of, say you should be saving 10% of your annual income or anything like that. Those numbers are always fun to hear. But for me, in terms of that, real quick, I'll throw out a simple one, and I'll give credit to Coach Dan John, which I'm sure Corona knows him. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, yes, Tom, sir. But one of the best in the industry. And he talks about a 90-second, can you carry half of your body weight in a suitcase carry? So in your right hand, if I weigh 200 pounds, I got to be able to carry 100 pounds in my right hand for 90 seconds, and then do the opposite in my left hand as well. So something like that, again, 100%, and again, we can look at our net worth, we can look at these basic numbers, but from a fitness standpoint, I don't know if you've ever done a DEXA scan, just looking at your muscle mass. It does a scan and tells you, hey, you have this much muscle mass, and we want to see that that's keeping steady. You can look at your bone density, you alluded to as well. So yeah, anyway, definitely a point of my passion and eagerness to spread that message of getting people stronger. lifting more weights, especially when it comes to personal trainers. That's one of my biggest gripes is when, someone's coming back and they're like, yeah, she got me up to the 2-pound dumbbells. And I'm like, yeah, we got to do more than that.
Right. There's there's so much overlap, and the notion of what do you want to be able to do when you're 85, and then if you are able to do that at 85, how long do you think you'll live then? And that's an interesting exercise I did once, and all of a sudden I realized that I'm not sure I want the plan that lands at 85.
Yeah.
I want to be doing stuff at 85.
Yes.
The oldest guy at the Lake Placid lacrosse tournament this summer that I ran into was 76 years old, and he was still playing lacrosse and still bragging about how he can outrun everybody. And there's challenges and risks that come with trying to stay involved in those kinds of activities. It's pretty much once a summer, an ambulance arrives at the field and has to revive somebody. And that didn't happen back when the tournament started in the early 90s. But it's kind of an important reality that if you want to continue to be vibrant and be able to do stuff and have a reason to keep on living, then you got to take care of your finances. You got to take care of your health. You got to build some relationships so that you are living a social and meaningful life. And all of those things, when you don't have them and you're overemphasizing something, the lack of it becomes a stressor that then starts to pile up. And I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and I've been under those types of stresses that have caused me to then seek out other ways to cope that are less healthy. Gaming on a phone, Instagram, Facebook, social media. During COVID, it clearly was watching TV and drinking wine. And, I'm now paying a price for those things, but it's not a permanent price. It's a temporary price, right? We can trade ourselves back. The market goes down, but you trade well and you invest in yourself when you're down. You can come back, and you can come back even better. Just before, this is so funny. So I tore my ACL when I was in 2004. So what's that? That's 20 years ago. So I was 37. And then it was 17 years later, I did it a second time. And just before I did it, I was playing like I was on fire. And this guy, Peter, who played at Notre Dame, turned to me. He goes, dude, you should stop and go home right now. And it wasn't 35 seconds later that I tore my ACL the second time. and so I'm like, I'm back, I'm better than ever. And boom, down again. And it sucks. You got to roll with it. And it was a longer road back. But you just got to keep moving on. Life is difficult. And once you realize that it isn't, because it's just life. And, just trying to help people apply the same things that they might know from some other part of their life where they're rock solid. If you know personal fitness, you can learn money. If you know how to be a doctor, or if you know how to be an engineer, if you have something that you're really good at, there's a easy way to take the pattern from your business and apply it to money. And that's what we tried to show people in the book.
So so right now you're changing. I'm going into your fitness here. So
Yeah.
we're going now. We're starting to roll now. We're doing more yoga now.
Mhm.
And now we're going to start lifting heavier also, all in the same process. Because as Bo and I always say, muscle is the organ of longevity. If without muscle, you don't age well. If you had to give advice to anybody watching you now about fitness in terms of what you've done fitness-wise in your career, because you're a very big dude. You're an outdoorsman. I know you canoe. I know you hike. I know you do all that stuff. If you had to give someone, because we're looking at CEOs, and the ones we're bringing on are people that are in shape, that have found ways to create time for themselves.
Yeah.
What advice would you give?
It's funny. I can tell you what I do, but the advice that I need to give to myself right now is you have to find a way to keep it fun and enjoyable enough so that you will want to keep coming back and doing it. I have to work out in a group. I have no individual sense of discipline that would get me to do what I need to do if I was just trying to do it on my own. Like if I do yoga, it's at a yoga studio. And so like somebody said to me, like, why don't you have the Peloton bike? Why don't you just pull up one of their yoga sessions and just do it in front of the bike? And I'm like, me and the bike aren't that close. Like we're not friends. I don't care to practice with the bike. I'd rather practice with a human being. And that's because I think that we often exchange energy in a way that is so much healthier for us when we are doing it with somebody else. And that can be with a personal trainer who sometimes does some of the exercises with you. That can be in a group setting. And so I have to intentionally create those opportunities and do so in a way that fits into a schedule that at one time the schedule was built around kids getting up and going to school and coming home from school and having I figured that out. But now that they're empty nesting and they leave and they come back, and sometimes there's one kid at home and sometimes there's two or three, and you kind of want to hang out with them, but you don't know when they're going to be around. And so it's right now it's a challenge for me to create that consistency that at times has been there before. But that's the advice that I'm giving to myself is you got to do it. And because I know myself. I know how I'm wired. I know that I like it when things come easy. And what comes easy is when somebody else is inspiring me to compete against them and beat them.
So Bo, what he just said to me is brand new to me, because I remember him running, because he used to run by himself a lot when we were growing up. Yeah. And he used to crush it. So when
I hated putting weights over my head. Hated it. Like lifting heavy weights like this. No thanks. I would rather go for a run because it was easy. It came easy to me. But lifting military press, screw that. I'll have big strong legs and okay arms.
Bo, you got anything to ask him? Anything else before we wind this down?
So the big thing for somebody, let's bring it back to the financial piece of it, is so CFP, was that it? Certified Financial Planner?
Yep.
That's the best kind of gold standard you think folks should look for if they're looking to figure out how they can identify with their, similar to what you were just talking about, your fitness journey, knowing that you need a group. I think I'm resonating with what you're talking about fitness wise. financially again, because I'm like, I think I need that accountability of my, let's say, dad's group to say, hey, like, where should I be investing my money? Okay, there was a presidential election. I feel like things are going to change over the next few weeks, months. I'm pretty sure there's ways to leverage money that I don't know about because that's not something I'm educated in. But I'm like, hey, can we do this as a group? Things like that. So same concept. And again, my wife's like, hey, I'm pretty sure I should start a Roth IRA. I'm like, yep, you should, I think. But again, things that I don't know about. So again, CFP, we have a financial advisor, and they're just like, hey, you should get life insurance. We're like, okay, which one should we do? Tell us. So same kind of thing of we want to hand it over. We want to make it easy. But I feel like finance is a lot harder than fitness, and for you, it might be the opposite. So, whoever's listening now, if they are not as financially literate, or they're more on my side of the financial literacy curve, should they be finding a CFP? Should they be reaching out to Shepard Industries?
Financial. Shepard Financial. Shepard Financial, buddy.
Or you can just get the book and take the quiz.
Yeah, I paid a marketing firm to come up with that name, by the way. So, what I do is I do comprehensive, holistic financial planning, and I use the financial natures, which is an approach that nobody else in the entire world uses. So there's something unique about what we do. There are other advisors that do a level that's called financial therapy. And there's a degree program at a couple of universities, started at Kansas State. And so it really kind of boils down to, are you a do-it-yourself, or do you want to delegate it to somebody? Do you want to learn while you're doing it? And so we're most interested. We don't have a minimum for assets under management. We have a minimum expectation that people who come to us, they want to use their money, and they don't want to just put it away for the 65-year-old person they're going to be. They want to use their money. They want to use it now. They want to use it forever. And so liquidity and leverage and all kinds of different techniques that we use to help you maintain access and vigor and flow. That's what makes our approach a little bit different. Is we're trying to help people in their mid-20s not fall into the trap of just saving for retirement. Like, building wealth is a lifetime activity, the same as education, the same as working out, the same as spiritual practice. And if you really want to be the best version of yourself, you need to recognize that there are patterns that are crossing over all of these disciplines. And, we should be able, as an individual who's helping somebody in one space, say, hey, what else might benefit you is not only opening up a Roth IRA, but signing up for that gym membership and going to see Corona and Bo and
Boys, you have any other questions? That was your big one.
I just miss your birthday pool parties, honestly. I usually won most of the prizes.
He was very talented athletically. He's also much bigger. He looks like he's small there, but he's a much bigger man than me. Tom, listen, first of all, I just can't thank you enough. As I put a ribbon on this, man, I can't thank you enough for being here with us and sharing your incredible journey, wisdom with us today. You've given us a lot to think about. And I'm going to say this. Let me ask you a quick question. Can anybody hire you?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what state you're in. You don't have to be licensed or nothing. Anybody can hire Tom Shepard.
No, I had this young couple, early 30s from Oregon, who reached out to me. They found me online, and the woman was a therapist, and she knew that her and her husband needed an outside person to help them have a better relationship with money, each individually and as a couple. So it's not the only thing we do. We have a very fun and enjoyable way of managing money that people appreciate. We do comprehensive planning. We help, send your kid to school, get them started in a business. There's so much. It's so much fun getting into the multi-generational stuff. So, you can find us at shepherd-financial.com. And you can certainly, I'd encourage people to read the book as a first step, because honestly, you don't even have to read the whole book. It's set up so that you can just read the back, read the table of contents, take an assessment, jump to the chapter that's about you, jump to the chapter that's about your spouse, understand why he's that way and you're that way and why you argue.
Well, I live with someone who's a litigator, so she's a professional arguer.
Right.
You also can reach Tom at currencycamp.com. You can also reach Tom at Tom Shepard, everythingismoney.com. And for those of you listening, your support means the world to us. If today's episode resonated with you, please take a moment, leave a review, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and hit that subscribe button. But most importantly, take action. Demand Better isn't just a show name. It's a call to revolutionize your approach to health, fitness, and I'm going to add money. A special shout out to our friends at Fit Care Physiotherapy and Wellness who are championing the powerful idea of investing in fitness today keeps you out of the healthcare tomorrow. Get ready for another great, fantastic guest next week. Until then, keep pushing boundaries, keep growing, and most importantly, keep demanding better. See you soon. Peace.